Greetings, I'm Hondo, and this is my review of the GFI Duophony. This pedal doesn't sound like anything on its own, so instead of my normal kind of template, what I'm going to do is run through the controls and the features so you know what the pedal can do and what's going on in the sound clips, and I'll show you some sound clips and give you my impressions along the way. So before I get started, I just wanted to say that I'm giving a general overview of the controls and the features on this pedal, but if you really want to really deep dive into all the things that this thing can do, and it can do a lot, I recommend going and checking out the GFI website for the manual so you can get the full scope of all the different things that this pedal can do. So up at the top of the pedal you have two knobs, and the main functions of these knobs are to control the volume of each one of the effects loops. Then over here on the right hand side of the pedal you have your main input down at the bottom, and then the send and return for the first effects loop, which is effects loop X. Now before I even go into the rest of the pedal, just with what I've already talked about, you can use this as a clean blend with whatever effect you want to put in the effects loop X. And one of the things that you might notice sometimes when you're blending effects with a pedal that's a parallel blender like this is your mid-range might sound weird, or like the low end might get weak or something like that. And one of the killer features that this has is that if you hold this knob down and turn it, you can access the phase of the effects loop and you can invert it. So 9 times out of 10, if you are having like a weird effect when you're blending the two signals together, that phase switch will fix it for you. So over here on the other side of the pedal, you have the send and return for the second effects loop, which is effects loop Y, and then also the stereo output for the entire pedal. In the middle is where things start getting really interesting, because you have these semicircle touch controls and then also this gray circle touch control down at the bottom. The main function for the semicircle touch controls is to control the balance between the effects loop X and effects loop Y, but if you press on that little gray circle down at the bottom, that actually gives you access to some of the other second layer and third layer functionalities, like the dry signal level and things like that. The effects loop Y and X blend is kind of where this pedal lets you get kind of crazy and do a bunch of cool different things with. The one thing that I really was kind of excited to try was to blend two different types of drive sounds to make like a third drive sound. And what I did was combined a drive that was EQ'd for lots of bass and not too much treble, and then put in the opposite effects loop a drive that was set up in an entirely different way, and I think it sounded pretty cool. So the touch controls take a little bit of getting used to. They're not like super quick to respond. One of the things that I found made them a little bit more consistent was to kind of hold down on them for a second before you move it. So if you are the type of person that would have this kind of sitting on a table and you wanted to use the touch controls for performance, that might not work out so hot, but GFI included a expression jack. So if you're using this on the floor, you can just use an expression pedal to control all the same things during the performance, and it works great. So up here on the very top panel of the pedal, you have the power jack and a USB-C port for firmware updates, and a 3.5mm jack for MIDI, which will give you access to more presets than just the A and B foot switches that are on the front. And one of the other things that's really important to tell you is that the effects loop, send and returns, and also the main input jack are all mono with a TS cable, but stereo with a TRS cable. And then the output left and right are both mono. But what this basically means is that even if you are like me and you like using weird stereo pedals and stuff, you can still use this to blend even your stereo pedals together in the different effects loops, and also blend them with your clean signal, which is very cool. This pedal is just chock full of features. It even has things that I haven't really even talked about much, like a LFO that will let you have like a modulation back and forth between the different effects loops. You can even act as a tremolo. And the pedal will even let you run effects loop X into effects loop Y. So in addition to it being a parallel signal blender, you can actually have them be series and then also have your clean signal. So the options in here are just crazy. If there was anything else that I could ask for just on the bass end, it would be a low pass filter, so you could just have the very, very low end of your clean sound blended in, because 9 times out of 10, that's really what I'm missing if I'm trying to blend a clean sound back in with effects. Let me know down in the comments if you feel the same way. But that's just about the only thing I think I would ask for, and hopefully that's something that GFI might be able to add in a firmware update if enough people ask for it. But even if they don't, this pedal is just phenomenal, and I think it's probably the best parallel signal blender, or really the best signal blender that I've ever used. So I have to admit, shooting this video was a bit rough because this pedal is kind of totally dependent on what you use it with. So even though I'm kind of showing what I come up with it, the possibilities with this are like almost limitless. So depending on what you can come up with, this pedal could kind of unlock a huge palette of sounds. So in the effort of being a little bit kind of out there, I tried to do a kind of like big room filling type of sound that it could be like just bass and nothing else playing at the same time. And what I did was I combined a drive pedal with a shimmer reverb and effects loop X. Then in effects loop Y, I have a sub-octave generator, and then I ran the stereo out left and right of the pedal into a reverb and stereo, and then use an expression pedal to control the balance between effects loop X and effects loop Y. And I think it created this really cool, big, like evolving sound. So I'll show you in this sound clip kind of each different sound and how they blend together. And as I come up with more ideas that might be cool with this, I'll post them either in a short or in a reel on Instagram. So keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, let me know what you think of this sound down in the comments. And until next time, I hope you're staying happy and staying healthy. Take it easy.